It's my pleasure to welcome you here to the Clark Howard Show, where our mission is to serve you with advice and information that empowers you so you make better financial decisions in your life. One way we serve you is via the community on Clark.com. I hope you'll join in, give advice to your fellow Clarkies at Clark.com/community. Today, I've got a Clarkonomics segment to share with you, and you're going to be shocked how the U.S. economy compares to the rest of the world. And then we got this budget deficit. Yuck. Also, I've changed my mind on something Christa and I have disagreed on for years, and you're going to have to wait to hear what it is, Christa.
I can't wait.
Because you were right.
What?
And I was wrong.
I don't believe it.
Oh, yeah. Believe it. I have learned an important lesson.
Okay.
So, U.S. economy, good, bad, indifferent? Does it stink? What do you think, Christa?
Oh, don't put me on the spot like that. I'm going to get a bunch of Clark stinks no matter what I say.
I know that, because people will immediately, we have people who are involved in the political process, they'll immediately go political.
Yeah,
this is not that.
Leave me out of it. You go ahead and tell us.
Oh, so they only think I stink.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so here's the truth. The U.S. economy is the strongest economy right now in the developed world. I mean, it's crazy that the U.S. share of economic activity in the world has actually gone up, while other countries have lost market share or share of total world economic output. And it's been really fantastic on a lot of levels. You see what's happened with our extremely low unemployment numbers versus a lot of other places in the world, our economic growth versus other countries in the world. But part of it is like a sugar high. It is fake. And the fakeness is based on the enormous budget deficits that the U.S. has been running year after year after year, and exceedingly strong over the last 7 years. And so these budget deficits have put us in a position where it's part of the reason for the inflation we've had, because this federal spending has actually led to some what's called pulled forward demand that has pushed prices up. And we've got things we've got to deal with, because these budget deficits are not sustainable. And you may or may not have heard it. It was kind of buried in the news. Newest report on the financial solvency of Social Security and Medicare stinks for both. And the estimate of when they're going to run out of money to pay the claims for Medicare and pay the monthly checks promised for Social Security is sometime early 2030s. And so each year the estimates change a little bit, but it's soon. And so it is true. Our economy is fantastic. People don't feel it because of the brutal impact of inflation that we've had since 2019 till now. And that inflationary cycle has been bad, ugly. And the Federal Reserve has still not been able to get inflation down to its target of 2%. Last 6 months, it's 2.98%. Recently, it's been running over 3% again. This is not okay. And the reality is, if we were to get our act together on what we spend versus the tax dollars we bring in other words, reduce the gap, reduce the deficit, I would like it to be zero, that will also bring down inflation. It's just a fact. We have too much money circulating. And one of the effects is the inflation we've had. The other thing is we've got to get our federal spending act together. We've got to do it, and the politicians have got to be honest with us, because if we can't even get that together, what happens when economic times are really bad, which even if they feel bad to you, let me tell you, they're not when you look at historical numbers. But when they are bad, tax collections go down, spending goes up, the deficit gets even wider. How are we going to fund that? And how are we going to deal with this gap in Social Security and Medicare? It's going to require discipline on our part as a country. And it will require us to look at choices that politicians are afraid to say. In the case of Social Security and Medicare, we're going to have more dollars coming in, i.e., that word nobody wants to hear, tax. We're going to have more in order to fund the raw numbers of people who are receiving Medicare and Social Security. You're not going to hear this at all through this election cycle, because it doesn't matter what party a politician is a member of. Nobody wants to talk about the truth about the gap in the amount of money we're bringing in for Medicare and Social Security and the promises of what we're paying. So if you want us to have a sound functioning economic system, it requires that we pay our bills, and we're not right now. So I could get elected to nothing because I just told you what no one wants to hear, and that is we either have to reduce the benefits we pay or raise the taxes we collect, or a combination of the two, in order to be able to properly fulfill the promises that we collectively have made to each other for Medicare and Social Security. Fact. I will hear it on Clark Stinks, won't I, Christa?
You will. I've already got some ones from the last time you talked about it saved up. Okay, Lisa in Minnesota says, you are a calming voice of reason, and I appreciate all that you have taught me over the years, the least of which is how to respond to criticism with grace. I am not a fan of Clark Stinks.
Oh, I love it.
My question, I missed the annual deadline for signing up for my HSA contributions this year.
Oh.
My employer is still contributing $1,100. I'm 50 years old and have about $58K saved in the HSA account. I only have ever contributed and have not taken anything out. Is there anything else I can do this year to soften the blow of my forgetfulness and limit any tax implications?
So, Lisa, what I would do, there's two things I would do. The money you would have put in towards an HSA, if you don't contribute to a Roth IRA, contribute the money you would have contributed to the HSA to a Roth. You'll still have money of the equivalent amount that will grow tax-free over the years. You won't get the triple tax benefit of the HSA, but you'll get the double tax benefit. So
I have an ignorant question.
Yes.
Can't she open another HSA outside of the employers and contribute to it since she already has a high deductible plan?
You know, I don't know the answer to that. I've never had that question before.
All right, we'll look
That's
it up.
interesting. But the thing I would say about your HSA, if you have $58K in it, that's fantastic. What you've not said is whether you're investing the money or it's in a simple savings account. My favorite thing for you to do is to invest the money. And my favorite place for you to have it invested is at Fidelity Investments. The money you already have in your HSA, you can do a tax-free transfer to Fidelity Investments, put it in stock type choices, probably index choices would be my favorite, that are available through Fidelity Investments. They'll cost you basically nothing if you do total stock market index or something like that. And your money will do what you want it to do, which is at 58, you not having tapped into this money, you may have 10, 15 years before you'd even want to draw on any of it. You don't want it in simple savings, just trying to keep up with inflation. You want to have growth over time. Now, if you go in the stock type choices with your HSA, you might have years that the market declines and your account declines in value. And you're like, I can't believe Clark con me into doing this. No, stock markets go down some years, but most years, the majority of years, like 2/3 of the time, markets go up. And that's how you outrun inflation and will build additional tax-free value in the HSA by putting the money in stock-type choices rather than simple savings.
And I am pretty sure she can open an additional HSA for this year.
Okay.
But we'll double check that. And we'll put the answer in the show notes. Andrea in Oregon says, with all the talk about unexpected medical bills, I'm wondering if I should have an ambulance coverage insurance. It's not terribly expensive, about $189 per year for my spouse and me. What are your thoughts?
So this has come up before, Andrea, and I've not been really hot on buying this specialty insurance. The ambulance thing is a real problem in most states. There's no controls at all on what ambulance services charge. You aren't exactly given an opportunity to say, hey, wait a minute, I'm going to call around. That ambulance service costs this much. What do you charge? I mean, time is of the essence. And so you end up after the fact, after you've received the service, with a bill that could be many, many thousands of dollars. And that's the fear. And that's why this specialty kind of insurance exists. You don't know that the insurance will pay exactly as agreed, even if you pay the premium. So it may be false peace of mind, because they may get into a spat saying, well, we think your charge for the ambulance is ridiculous. We're only going to pay this. And then you're still getting a bill for the balance of it. I would think in terms of it this way. I have never been in an ambulance ride in my life, and I certainly don't have perfect health. And how many times in your life have you gone on an ambulance ride? If you think about paying $189 and over time that premium will go up, how much money you would accumulate, you're really better off with something like an ambulance ride, even with all the problems of the industry, being self-insured.
And John in Florida says, hi, Clark. I had an idea for smoking turkeys and selling them for local delivery to my neighbors and friends. I have no idea what are the legal and regulatory requirements to be able to do something like this from home, or even where to get started with my state and local governments. Where can I look to see what I have to do? Every time I search, it seems all I get are consultants trying to sell me their how-to class.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. So, John, Florida, just like many other states, has a state guide to what's required of you. Florida's is in the Florida Department of, I think it's called Agriculture and Consumer Services is the name of the department. And so they have a guide for people that are doing food at home, having food establishments, that walks you through how to do it. Oh, Christa just brought it up for me. Yeah, the Florida Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services. And so they will let you know what you have to do, state or local in Florida, and what, if any, federal requirements you have to meet. So it's kind of like a perfect briefing for what you're trying to ask without going to somebody who's going to charge you for that information, because you already pay taxes for that State Department to exist. And you'll find that more or less, maybe less information available in some states, even more detailed in other states. But you'll find it because this is a common problem for people that are starting a food business, particularly one that maybe they start at home for delivery or something like that, knowing what they have to do, what laws and regulations they have to comply with. And so the states are pretty good at letting you know what you have to do. At least I just, with a broad brush, said states are pretty good. Let's hope that when you're trying to start some kind of food business, your state has the kind of information available you're going to need. Coming up ahead, I'm going to tell you where Christa was right and I was wrong.
Woohoo!
For years. I have changed my opinion on something, and I'll share it with you straight ahead. I've had complaints from people for years who are what are known as net payers. They pay their bills in full when they come in. They're not paying interest on credit cards because they always pay during the grace period, all of that. But I keep hearing from people who, well, I was out of town and I didn't pay that bill on time, and my credit score dropped 120 points, or, I never got the bill, as best I know, from this or that credit card, and now my credit score is down 70 points. What reminded me of it is I saw a column from financial columnist Liz Weston where somebody had failed to make a $20 payment on a card. That was their balance. And they didn't make the payment. They had the money, they didn't do it. And their credit score dropped 50 points from in the 800s into the upper 700s. And so what happens is you can pay on time over and over and over again. And you can have a single oops, and it will really hurt your credit score. Now, the good news is that hurt doesn't last exceedingly long. Even though the one late pay can show on your report for a long time, the impact on your score softens steadily, and it should only be a devastating event in the short term if you're about in the next 6 months to apply for a mortgage or a car loan. And in that case, that is devastating. So Christa and I have disagreed about something for so long I can't even remember.
Now I know what it is. Yep, we have.
And it is that you have always, because of oops in life that happen, you've always set up automatic payments for your credit cards. Mm-hmm. And I've never liked that because I was always worried that we'd get out of the habit of looking thoroughly through our statements and making sure the charges that are there really are our charges. That, if things are on automatic pilot, you may not pay attention. I've also had this fear that if payments are set up automatically, that you don't pay enough attention to how much money you're spending overall and on individual forms of credit.
All can be true, for sure.
But I have changed my mind that it's better, particularly because of the problems with the U.S. mail. That the Postal Service is having tough times delivering mail on time in a lot of places in the country. And it's haphazard where people aren't getting their mail and stuff. I'll give you an example. Somebody sent me a holiday card last December, 2 weeks before Christmas, and sent it to our old address. What happened to that card? I just got a call from him yesterday, and he sent me a text of a picture of the envelope finally returned to sender.
Wow.
6 months later. Let's see if I can show you this. There it is.
Wow.
So it was postmarked on the 12th of December and just came back. And so they had put a sticker on it in February, but did not make it. So it took from December to February to even put the yellow sticker on it, and didn't make it back to him till yesterday.
Crazy.
So the mail service is having a lot of problems. The workers are working really hard. The management of the Postal Service right now is a mess. And so you can't rely on the mail to get you those bills on a timely basis. I know the credit card companies would say, well, just have your bills come electronically. I don't like that. I want you to have an actual paper statement you can look through. I find that you review them better when it's in paper form than when it's electronic on a screen.
You can print them out. I mean, the automatic payments I set up are for minimum payments on my cards.
The idea of the minimum payments is so that even if you get stuck with interest because you didn't pay a bill on time, it does not harm your credit.
Right. So that forces me, because of course I don't want to just make the minimum payment. I mean, I can't remember the last time that happened and I got caught with an interest charge. I want to go through and check the charges, but it's just a fail safe. And so what I'll do is I'll go in, I'll pay the whole bill, and I'll take out the minimum payment. I'll cancel it for that month. So I know I've done it, but it's just sort of like a backstop for me. Because also, what if I want to dispute something? I don't want to pay the whole amount.
Right.
So that's how I handle it myself. But I am flaky sometimes, so.
That's something you and I share. I've always said I'm flaky, and it's true. Anybody who's been around me for a long time can tell you I'm a flake.
And we just have a lot going on in our lives, so sometimes it's easy to forget things. All right, let's go to some questions. This one's from Greg in Illinois. Hi, Clark and fellow Chippewa. That's the second
Central
time
Michigan University.
Yeah, second time someone's mentioned that recently. For the first 20 years of my adult life, my credit wasn't the greatest due to bad choices, bad judgment, and a little bad luck. Through discipline, making better choices, and not giving into temptation over the past 10 to 15 years, I am proud to say that I've turned that around with a credit score of 780 to 820 over the last few years. That's congratulations. That's amazing. However, I gave into temptation while shopping at Macy's in November. I caved when the cashier said, "You will save so much money if you open up a Macy's Amex card today." Oh. All of my bills have been set up on AutoPay for the past several years, so I'm not diligent about checking my mail. Basically, I was late paying my bill on this new card, causing my credit to plummet 150 points.
150?
I take full responsibility for missing this payment, but I am frustrated that I can make 100% of my payments on time for 10 years, thousands of payments, and one stinking late payment on a small balance tore down my credit. Is there anything I can do to fix this, or am I at the mercy of time?
So, Greg, first of all, 150 is higher than I usually hear from people. That's a really high number for a decline. Time will be absolutely fine to heal this, and the score should recover pretty well over, let's say, 6 months. You'll see meaningful improvement because you'll continue to pay all your bills on time. Because let me tell you why the credit scoring model hits you so hard for a single late pay. The credit card companies they're really worried that when somebody who's paid really well for month after month, year after year on all their bills, suddenly they miss one, they think something's happened in your life. They think you lost your job or you're going through a divorce or something that's a personal circumstance, and that this is going to trigger a new pattern. So this is like an alert to everybody you have credit with. So as you continue to pay every month on time, everything you have, this will heal. And you were already doing the automatic payments to eliminate problems. But you point out yet another reason why instant in-store credit is a really bad idea. I don't care how much Macy's or anybody else tells you you're going to save on that purchase today. Don't do it.
Mitchell in Mississippi says, I read about self-directed Roth IRA that can be used for investing in real estate such as a rental property. Can a Roth IRA be converted to a self-directed Roth? And if so, what are your thoughts on converting and using some of the money for a real estate investment?
So I'm going to really be wishy-washy on this. I hate it. I can't stand these self-directed real estate IRAs. And you can go ahead and start working on your Clark Stinks right now, how well it's worked for you, other people listening or watching right now. So real estate has inherent strong tax advantages being held in a regular investment. You get a lot of friendly treatment from the tax code. You're already getting friendly treatment in a Roth IRA, but when you go self-directed, you're going to have a new layer of complexity and expenses, and also traps that can occur when you own real estate inside a Roth IRA. Not to mention, you lose a lot of the tax benefits you have with a piece of real estate owned inside an investment rather than inside an IRA of some kind. Now, you can, if you want to be involved in real estate, as part of what you do in a retirement account, you don't have to own individual properties. You can own Vanguard's index exchange traded fund, real estate exchange traded fund. There are a number of mutual funds that invest in real estate, and you can own it that way inside your Roth without having the added difficulty and expenses of owning individual real estate. I just have never liked in the least owning individual real estate through an IRA because I think it's a inefficient strategy for being a real estate investor.
John in California says, I want to say thank you to Clark. A few years ago, I was visiting my wife's family in the Philippines when I got sick. I had to spend the night in the hospital.
I'm sorry.
Yep, the bill was less than $300, but my health insurance denied it. Well, it happened again last January and again one night in the hospital. Again, I submitted to my health insurance and they denied it. But this time, after hearing Clark talk about how insurance companies automatically will deny a claim, I filed an appeal, stating that if it was denied since I didn't use a provider, that I needed a list of local providers in the Philippines. Well,
Good point.
Yeah, this time they paid my claim for $292 and sent me a check. It pays to fight back and don't just roll over for them. Thank you, Clark, for your advice. But it's also crazy how different the cost is. I visited the ER, got treated by a doctor with lab work done, and an overnight stay in the hospital, all for less than $300. I would say I got better treatment than at my local hospital here.
Well, definitely the cost. I mean, you go into a U.S. hospital, into the ER, and if your bill is not in the many, many thousands of dollars, you're the luckiest person around. The work they do in ER is saving people's lives. The medical professionals of all types working in an emergency room, incredible that people have chosen to do that as their life's work and save so many lives. But the costs are crazy high, and you point out an example how different cost of medical care is in other countries versus the United States, because we are proud to be number one in this too. The highest costs for medical care by far in the world. And I'm so glad that you didn't just accept a no from your health insurer and you got your money. Advocating for yourself is so much of what it's about. And we hear that, and you see it in our podcast day after day, where someone shares the story about how they fought a battle, and sometimes not even a hard one, to get money back that they were owed or to receive money they should have gotten. And I love that because you are a living, breathing example for your fellow listener and viewer that it's your money, and the only person who's going to advocate to get your money is who? You. And remember what we're devoted to. You learning ways to save more, spend less, and avoid getting ripped off. Have a great day. See you tomorrow.